Welcome on in, everyone, to ClayShareCon 2024. Here we are, day 3, the last demo of the day for day 3. I know it's pretty sad. The only thing we have left to do is the giveaways, which is very happy. And we, of course, have all day tomorrow. So you know I love Georgie Ceramic, and I've been using their products for years. You know how much I love their interactive pigments, which are shown here on a couple pieces from some classes we have on ClayShare. And we've done lots of stuff with them and with Georgie's Glazes. And we have Maria here with us again today, and she has done so many wonderful things with us and with Georgie's. And she has 2 workshops already with ClayShare. One is Whimsical Garden Stacks, and the second one is a Whimsical Garden Stack extension workshop, which is, you don't need the first one, but it kind of builds upon that. And then we're going to be doing a workshop again with her in June, and she's going to be doing birds. So if you like doing birds, you got to come do that. This last year we did fish. It was so fun. Fish and flowers. It was a really great workshop, so you have to check that out. So right now we're going to go out to Maria and see how she's doing, and she's going to teach us how to fix old or frozen glazes. Hi, Maria.
How's everyone doing? Hope everyone's doing well and your pocketbooks aren't broken yet. This was gonna be my year to like not buy any new glazes and not buy any new tools, and so I guess that's not happening. So
I save up and plan for ClayShareCon to be like,
exactly.
There's stuff I buy, and
yeah.
Because
well, and then Mako came out with their new glazes yesterday, and well, I mean, one of them is great for sunflowers because my favorite sunflower glaze is being discontinued. So let's just get right into it. I'm going to give just like a 2-minute history on Georgie's. So Georgie's has been around since 1965. In 1975, Georgie bought the business. It was under a different name, bought it from her father. And when she passed away, Georgie's kids took over. And it's now owned by her daughter, and her daughter and granddaughter actually run Georgie's. So Georgie's is currently all female owned. They currently have 34 employees between Portland and Eugene. Those are the 2 stores. Portland is the mothership, which is where all the glaze and clays and glazes are made. And there's only 7 production staff. So, Georgie's is a really small company when you look at it like that. But they make, I'm going to read this here because I just got these stats. They make approximately 140,000 pounds of clay a week with 2 pug mills. They make about 200 gallons of slip per week. So, and slip, they've got low fire, medium range, and cone 10. And I was a little shocked at ClayCon West. There were more people coming up to me who didn't realize that Georgie's actually made clay and glazes. Some people thought Georgie's was just the interactive pigments, but it's not. They have a whole line, low fire all the way up to cone 10 of glazes, mid-range or clay, low fire to cone 10 clay, mid-range cone 6 glazes, and then the interactive pigments. And they can do about 112 gallons of glaze a day. So they've got like 4 glaze tanks. And on average, they can do like 12 gallons up to 30 gallons of glaze. But they usually don't do 12 because it takes just the same amount of time to make 12 gallons of glaze as it does 30. So whenever they're making a glaze, it ranges between like 22 and 26 gallons of that particular glaze. And just to put that in perspective, because we're going to talk a little bit about some of the glazes that they're discontinuing, 26 gallons of glaze is 208 pints or 832 little 4-ounce containers. And if you average that out, so 30 gallons of glaze is about 320 cans of pop of soda. So if you look at that perspective, that, I mean, and so every time they're making a glaze, if they're making 30 gallons of it, that averages out to about 320 cans of Coke, you know, or Sprite or something like that. That's a lot. And so when you talk about, I'm getting a lot of questions about the glazes that they discontinued. They have over 106 glazes right now. And what happens is some of the glazes, like the raku glazes, especially in Oregon, you only have like a window between like July and September when you can raku. So they'll make all this glaze and then it sits. And if it sits for 6 months or a year, you know, then, you know, that's why something gets old. And then if it's shipped and it gets frozen and thawed, then you have those issues. So that's why they're discontinuing some glazes. So go online, look at their website. If one of the glazes that you like is being discontinued, stock up on it now. So I stocked up on my turquoise lagoon, my mottled brown, peanut ash matte. I know, Jessica, you just got
I just found that.
Right? So that is being discontinued. But that, I mean, that's why. So if they have old glaze, the distributors, even if they're getting a fresh batch of glaze, if Georgie's isn't selling it, then the distributor isn't selling it either. So, you know, this is when they discontinue, I mean, all manufacturers, when they discontinue things, they don't take it lightly. They look at years and years and years of sales, material costs. They look at a lot of things before they come to these decisions. And I don't think Georgie's has discontinued any glazes in like 8 years. So the other side of the coin, their warehouse is full. They want to make new glazes and new formulas, and they won't have any place to put them in the warehouse. So this opens up room for them to do that. So let's go kind of to the overhead. And we're going to go through this right quick. So Georgie's has, is this in the frame? They've got gloss glazes, sculptural textural line, the satin line, the tie-dye line, the interactive pigments, and raku glazes. So most of the glazes that they're discontinuing are in the raku and the sculptural textural line. So now's the time to buy them. Between now and the 25th, promo code ClayShareCon 2024. Everybody gets 20% off the glazes. If you're a Prime member, you always get 20% off Georgie's glazes. Okay, so let's kind of get into the meat of this with how to fix a glaze. Okay, so Georgie's this is a new product, fairly new. It's called Glaze Fix. This is for a glaze that has deadpanned or hard panned. I learned the term deadpan. What do you say, Jessica? I don't know if that's an East Coast thing.
Hard pan. I use hard pan, yeah.
For some reason, I learned it as deadpan. This glaze fix is for something like that. And a glaze that is hard panned, what it is the top of the jar has water, and the bottom of your glaze is hard. It's literally really, really hard, and you can't break it up. So this is only for hard pan glazes. I haven't used this yet because I don't have any glazes that are hard panned. I have glazes that have like frozen or dehydrated. So some of my glazes, and you know, if you get the Georgie's, the 4-ouncers, these will dehydrate quicker and they freeze quicker because there's less material in it. So this, you see all these chunks? This is not hard panned. This is just dehydrated. Okay, so this fix that I'm going to show you works really well with glazes like that. And as a matter of fact, my copper patina, this is a glaze I've had since 2020. My copper patina glaze looked like that. And I did this fix, and still a little thick, but I can use it because I know what that glaze is like. So this fixed that right up. And this has copper patina on it right here from this jar. So
can you use that glaze fix with other brands of glaze?
Supposedly. I haven't tried it yet. I don't know what's in it. It stinks to high heaven.
Yeah.
Don't add any bleach to it. You know, it needs to stink to do what it's supposed to do. Okay, so every studio, even if you're a hobby potter, needs to have Darvan, either Darvan 7 or Darvan 11, and Amico gum solution. We're going to use those, and an immersion blender. Now, I have to talk safety with the immersion blender just because one of my friends messaged me yesterday. She practically cut off one of her fingers. She was cooking, making soup, and she went in for some reason to unstick this. There was globs of food on it, and her other hand turned it on, and she cut her.
Oh my gosh!
And I had a student in class that did that once. It was awful. So when this is plugged in, do not put your fingers in it. Safety
oh my gosh.
Yeah, safety first. Okay, so I don't have any, I have fixed most of my frozen glazes, although I did just get a box of glazes from Georgie's yesterday. And it's still freezing at night. Like, it's going to be 60 degrees today, but it's still below freezing at night. So they probably froze. But this is an old glaze that I've had since probably 2019, maybe longer, looking at the label. This is really old. So it looked like this in the jar. Okay, so this is old. It's been frozen. It's thawed. It's not deadpanned. I take it, I put it in another container. I'm going to take some water, my in screen. I'm going to add put a little bit of water.
Yeah.
And I'm going to put my lid back on. And then I'm going to shake this. I always, when I shake up my glazes, I cover them with a towel. Because sometimes these leak, sometimes you don't get the lid on correctly. I'm going to try to get all that good stuff out of there. I'm going to put that in here. And I will take the time to get all this stuff. I'll get a brush, whatever. I'll get all this gunk out of there. But I'm not going to take the time to do it today. And I'm going to stir this up a little bit. Might have added a little too much water, but that's okay because I'm not going to use this glaze right away. And then we're going to add some Darvan. Now, Darvan is extremely strong. There's two types, 811 and 7. 811 is stronger, more potent than 7, but I'm just going to show you right quick. This is I'm showing you a slip just because I don't want to ruin any glaze. This is some Timberline sculptural slip that I have made. And I'm just going to show you this water. Just going to show you how potent this is. I needed that spoon. Hold on.
So can you use the glaze fix on low fire glazes?
I don't know why you couldn't. What I would do is maybe, you mean glaze fix for low fire glazes that have hard panned?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
If you got a low fired glaze or it's dried up or it's old or something and you're having
I don't know why you couldn't. But again, only use it for hard pan glazes. This is the fix for something that's dehydrated, like this glaze is. So something that's just like dehydrated and chunky. And
it's a different fix.
Yeah, it's a different fix. And Jessica and I were talking a little bit ago, with underglazes, I would only use this technique with the old version of the Speedball. Yeah, don't usually if I have a underglaze that's dried up like that, I just use a little bit of water and it's fine. And I was talking to Dell at ClayCon West, and he doesn't think that you'll ever need to use Darvan again on the new formula of Speedball glazes or underglazes, unless they get really, really old. So, okay, so I'm just gonna put a few drops just so that you can see how quickly, you see how quickly that thinned that out? And if I let this sit even longer, look at that. So Darvan is really, really potent. A lot goes a long way. So think about this as cooking. Once you add it, you can't take it out. So since this was almost a full pint of glaze, usually if I'm doing like a 4-ounce jar, I'll just add like 3 or 4 drops, but I'm going to add about 5 drops or 6. Okay, and then I know this is so old that I need to add the gum solution. So Darvan is a deflocculant. So it's going to make things disperse. So it's going to make it thinner. So you don't want to add too much. The gum solution is going to help with brushability. So if you've ever brushed on a glaze and it dried really fast and it brushed on really chalky, that's what this is going to help with. So I'm going to add, and this is how it's supposed to be. I'm going to add 1/4 teaspoon about. It's supposed to be really gummy like that. That's what it looks like. Also, don't let your Darvan or your gum solution freeze. So I bring my Darvan and my gum solution, they stay in the house. Not with food though. Okay, so then, oh, there we go. This is gonna be loud, so I don't know, Kevin, you might wanna turn off sound. I'm gonna take my immersion blender. My immersion blender is really old. It's over 10 years old. I'm just gonna blend it. Okay, so this is still a little thick. I'm going to add a few more drops of Darvan. And here's the thing, this is why you need to know your glazes. You need to learn your glazes and learn what they're like, so that when this happens, you can fix them. Okay. So that's pretty good. It still might be a little thick, but that's okay. And then I'm going to take my immersion blender. I'm not going to stick my fingers in it. I'm going to stick it in my bottle, in my bucket of water. Switch it a little bit. I'm going to take it out and I'm going to let it sit. And that way the glaze won't get stuck on my blender. And so this, it's still a little thick, but look how much better that is. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pour it back into my container. So clean this out before you pour it back in your container. I'm going to let it sit overnight. And then I'm going to come back to it. And if it needs a little, if it's still thick, I'll add maybe a little more water. At this point, I'm not going to add any more Darvan. So I'll add a little more water. I'll mix it up again. And then I'm going to put it through an 80 mesh sieve. And so that's how you fix an old or frozen glaze. Now, I know a lot of people don't want to do that, but it's part of having a home studio. There's no way around it. I mean, like this glaze I've had for a long time. If you're new to glazing and new to not necessarily glazing, but commercial glazes, there's going to come a time when you're not going to use every glaze that you have. And so that you're going to have to do this. Okay, questions on that right quick before we kind of look at samples.
Yes, some folks are asking the difference between a hard pan glaze versus a dehydrated glaze.
Okay, so the dehydrated glaze, basically, this has no liquid in it, no water, right? The hard pan glaze usually has liquid at the top. So if this were more hard panned, I'd probably have a quarter of a jar of water and the rest of this would be glaze. Do you know a better way to explain it, Jessica?
No, I mean, it's pretty much hard pan. The glaze is all settled into a hard pan in the bottom with a layer of water on top.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And dehydrated is just dry. It's just all gone, no more water, just all dry glaze, just powdered.
Yeah, almost as if this went into food
like the desert. Yeah, exactly.
And, I just keep this because I have a whole nother jar of purple velvet. I keep this glaze just so people can kind of see that.
Sample.
Yeah, exactly. Samples. Yeah. Okay, so now we can do a couple things. We can go over samples, or I can show you how I use the interactive pigments. Anybody have more an idea of what they want?
Show us how you use the interactive pigments. And then do you know, does Georgie ship internationally?
No. Georgie's will not ship internationally at this point. They've had too much loss.
Do they have a Canadian distributor? Do they sell in Canada?
There are some Canadian distributors, but they're up like near Vancouver area.
Okay.
Right. So go on Georgie's website and there's a little button that you can push that will show the distributor map. So there is a distributor in Canada. They will ship to Alaska. And I know a gal who is in, I think she's in Abu Dhabi. And what she does is she's found a third party. So she orders from Georgie's, it gets sent to the third party in the States, and then that third party sends it to her.
Right. Yeah. A freight forwarder. So you can use, we've had people order stuff from us using a freight forwarder. Now we do ship international, but people still like to use it because I guess maybe they can get better rates.
And the problem, I mean, I know that there are a lot of glaze distributors that do it. I don't know how they deal with damage and lost packages and glazes that have leaked or exploded. It's just not something that Georgie's is going to do right now. Okay, so whenever I use the interactive pigments, the thing to remember with the interactive pigments is that they're only food safe if you dilute them by a minimum of 50% and then put a food safe glaze over them. Okay, so keep that in mind.
So is that a new statement from Georgie's?
No, we've been saying that. Dilute
because I had just been, because that's what I do 25, but
no, you do 75. Don't
well,
you?
I mean 25, 25 Georgie's, 25 pigment, 75 water.
75 watt, right? No.
Yeah.
The standard, right? The standard is 50% pigment, 50% water.
I'm safe.
25% pigment.
I'm super safe.
75, right? She's super safe because the interactive pigments are basically saturated combinations of oxides. And because they're so saturated, if they're not diluted and don't have a food safe glaze over them, they will leach through the glaze. I don't think it was last year. It might have been the year before. ClayShareCon, I think my demo was doing the pigments on top of the glazes. So I have a lot of samples of that. If you ever put the pigment on top of the glaze, it is never food safe, even if it's diluted and even if it's on top of a food safe glaze. So keep that in mind. Never food safe on top. Underneath, dilute by a minimum of 50%. And then what I do, especially if I have a new glaze, especially like a new translucent glaze, I'll put it on one of my flowers. So these flowers, because they have 8 petals, there's 8 pigments, same glaze, pigment underneath. You can really see what it's like. And with the pigments too, this is sand and surf under various different pigments or sand and surf with different glazes on top of it. But I wanted to show this because one of my favorite glazes is for my sunflowers is this mottled brown, and that's being discontinued.
I know.
Yeah, and I did buy a couple pints of it, but then I was going through my samples for this, and I found this old flower that I made. This is brown, not mottled brown, but brown on top of sand and surf. This would look beautiful on a sunflower. So you know, this is an opportunity for me to like think outside the box. So
with the pigment, straw has always been one I was kind of meh about. But then Jennifer Alara, one of our members, shared under the wildflower celadons how straw, it just is amazing. So I've been using it there and it's gorgeous.
It just depends. This is straw. It just depends on what glaze is over or under it. And sometimes you do have to use more. So, you know, if you can't dilute it 50% and get it to work, then it's not going to be food safe. But this is gray. You can see kind of some pinks coming out of it. This is on chartreuse gloss. Blizzard blue, it didn't do too much. But straw is nice. You just have to figure it out. So when I use the pigments, because I'm not putting them on any food, I use them full strength. Let me just move some of this stuff out of the way. And this is a fish that I made in one of the Garden Stacks class. What I'm going to do with this, I decided before I knew this glaze was going to be discontinued. This is melon satin, and this is sand and surf underneath the melon satin. So that's what this fish is going to be like. So I use them full strength because they're on sculpture. And what I do, it's going to get kind of messy, is, and the eyes, this is a coyote underglaze, and I waxed that out because I didn't want to get anything on the eyes. I saturate my piece. Oh,
yeah, you need to come up a little bit in the frame.
Is that better? Okay. I saturate the whole thing. And again, I use them full strength. And sand and surf is my favorite. I think autumn foliage is Jessica's favorite, right?
Do love it, but I've been loving on the sand and surf too lately. It's great with my chun. Like the sand and surf and the chun are like spectacular.
So, and then my new kind of go-to clay is the Pioneer Dark with speckles. So this clay is Timberline Sculptural. So I am going to be making some garden stack pieces with that sunflower I showed you just a minute ago. That's made out of the Pioneer Dark with speckles. And so what I
made that sunflower in the workshop you did with us this summer.
I made a similar flower.
A sunflower. A sunflower.
Yeah, a flower. It was a similar flower. Yeah, because it wasn't actual. It's made the same way, but the petals are a little different. Yeah, so if you want to know how that flower is made, that's in the garden stack class. So then what I do is I kind of
share that.
I kind of let it dry. And then what I do is I wipe it back so that it gets into the texture. And I don't want to run over, but I'll do this all over. And depending on how I want the glaze to look, some areas I'll wipe back more, some areas I'll wipe back less. And then I let this dry completely overnight. And notice I am wearing gloves whenever I'm using the interactive pigments, especially because I use them full strength. I always wear gloves. So I'll finish this fish up. I'll wipe them back. I'll let them dry overnight. And then I'll glaze it. And I'll come up with something like this. So this is same pigment, sand and surf. This has maroon on it. And this is Amico, actually. This is Amico pear.
Oh, so, yeah.
Yeah, so this is one of my favorite combos for fish. Another combo.
And I just want to let everybody know with the interactive pigments are a combination of materials. You should wear gloves. You do not have to wear a face respirator.
Correct.
But you do want to wear gloves when you're applying them.
Yeah.
Because you're going to get on your hands. So you want to, one for the staining aspect, but two, the safety.
Right. They're not like
under glazes.
Right. Yeah, they're not like under glazes, and they're not like the Mako washes. So definitely wear gloves. This is I think I used indigo on this. With the Gean green and aqua gemstone on the sky. So you'll see a lot of my garden stack pieces will always have a pigment on it. This is one I just did. This is that same glaze combo. And then the tree has white froth on top of tree bark, or the door, and the interaction between the tree bark and the white froth gives you this mossy look. Yeah, and I know this is a Georgie's demo. This clay is Timberline Sculptural, but this is Coyote's Red Gold. And the bird are two of Coyote's Texas Two Steps. So you can use Georgie's glazes and Georgie's pigments with other
absolutely with other companies' products. Yeah, it's so nice that you can do that. Now, you did a birdhouse in your first garden stack workshop with us.
Yes,
didn't you?
Yes.
So if you like her birdhouses, you need to check that out too.
These are not functional birdhouses. These are for garden stack, not functional.
Right.
So I had somebody ask me that. I think ceramics for real birdhouses, I think they would, especially here in New Mexico.
Yeah, I have a birdhouse class. In my birdhouse, it's decorative. Now, people could use it for real birds, but I don't. It's only decorative in my life.
I think it would be too hot.
Mine doesn't even live outside. Mine's inside.
Yeah. Oh, gotcha. So these are this is a great combo. This is moss thicket. This again is the tree bark with white froth. This is ancient copper. What are you going to do? So this is, and speckled olive. So, and a wax resist technique. So, houses and birds are kind of my jam. And just one more thing, when I test glazes, I'll test either on a taco, I'll make a flower, I'll do a strip, whatever I have, and I'll do 1 coat, 2 coats, 3 coats, so I can see how that glaze looks on a piece. So that's kind of how I test when I get some new glazes. So that's kind of what I have. Are we out of time?
Oh, we went over, but I'm okay. I'm just giving stuff away next. That's all.
Okay. Well, let me show one quick thing. This speckled clay, Pioneer Dark with speckles. This is White Cloud. And I was making bowls. I was just testing stuff. This speckled Pioneer Dark looks great with just the Amico fluxes. So this one I think is Moss Mist, and that's Honeydew. So if you have a speckled clay, I mean, I know
that's nice.
we're not Amico, but just, you know, you just use that.
Wow, that's so good.
You won't be disappointed.
That's the Pioneer Dark. I did test tile with the Celadons on the Pioneer Dark.
Oh, yeah. With your Celadons, I bet they're great.
Oh, they came out so bright and juicy.
Yeah.
On there. And I actually have them in vertical.
At ClayCon West,
oh, you want me to go to camera too? Yeah.
At ClayCon
so this is the
West,
Pioneer Dark. Go ahead, Maria.
Really pretty. At ClayCon West, I got the sample Western Ceramics put out by Clay Planet. And I did a little test on the Pioneer Dark with speckles. And look at that orange flashing. And I asked Christy and Eli at Georgie's, and they said that the Pioneer Dark with speckles will get this orange flashing with a glaze that has some sort of copper in it. So I'm going to try to...
Ken, did you switch camera? I don't see the flashing. I only see Maria. Now you're there. Okay, now show us. Yeah, now it's finally here. He was late.
That orange flash. I mean, I just think that's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of has a wood-fired effect.
And so this was 1 coat, 2 coats, 3 coats. So, you know, if you get some Pioneer Dark with speckles, play with all your glazes, do the tests. It's a great clay. It's 0% absorption rate at cone 6.
Ooh.
So it's even a lower absorption rate than the Timberline sculptural. So
wow.
People are loving it. Although don't order it right now. I'm going to wait a few weeks because it's still freezing out.
It's still too cold. You don't want your clay to freeze. Exactly. And Georgie's will do flat rate shipping.
Yep.
You can put 50 pounds of clay in a box and pay flat rate. So,
and 6 pints of glaze will fit in the medium
flat rate.
In the medium flat rate, and 50 pounds of clay in the large flat rate.
I buy the Georgie's dark chocolate trail mix like once every couple of years. I just buy one box, and that's like my treat because it costs as much to ship it as it does to buy the glaze.
Exactly.
But I mean to buy the clay, but it's worth it to get it once in a while.
Yeah,
it's so nice.
That's a beautiful clay. But my go-to this summer is going to be
the Pioneer. I want to get more of the Pioneer Dark with spec, so maybe I'll get that instead.
The specs are not manganese. The specs in this clay
is so nice.
It's a glass frit, and you can. I mean, this stuck to the shelf because my foot wasn't. I don't know what camera he's at.
You didn't,
my foot. But I just took a sanding pad, and it's so smooth. So even though those specs are there, if it's a little rough when you take it out of the kiln, and you should be doing this, especially if you're selling your pieces, you should be sanding your bottoms anyways. So when you glaze, you wipe your bottoms. When you're finished, is sand them. So, okay. So,
well, so much information.
Yeah. If you want to get in touch with me, my Instagram, that's usually the best place, is at Maria's Art Space. Email is maria@mariasartspace.com. And then Georgie's, I help monitor the Facebook group, Georgie's Ceramic, Clay, and Glazes user group. You can message me there. I help monitor that page, but Georgie's does not have anything to do with that page. So if there's a question I can't answer, I will
get you to the person that can.
Yeah. Or I'll ask Georgie's and get that figured out. So Thank you,
Awesome.
everybody. Good luck with the.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
I know. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Maria,
Thanks.
for a very informative session. So much information on there. Thanks for being with us again for ClayShareCon for our fifth anniversary. Woo! All right. So a lot of information. You're definitely going to want to go back and watch the replay of this. And Maria has joined us in previous ClayShareCons and done demos with other Georgie's products. So you're probably going to want to go back and check that out. She also has 2 workshops with us that you can go and sign up for and take. Premium members, you get a discount on all the workshops. And the great thing about our workshops that's different from our classes is that the workshops, when you purchase it, you have that workshop forever. So if you're a premium member and you sign up for a workshop, you get a discount. But then if you cease being a premium member, you still have access to that workshop. So it's only for our workshops, separate from our classes. So that's a really nice thing. And if you're not a member, you can still purchase the workshop and still have the workshop. Doesn't matter. You don't have to be a member to purchase it. It's just you save. And sometimes being a member, the discount you get off the workshop is better than paying your membership fee. So it's like membership is free. It's really great. You have to check it out. All right, we're going to take like a 3-minute break, and then I'm going to be back so we can give a whole bunch of stuff away. I think we're giving away some Georgie's interactive pigments, like a kit tonight. So if you love these, you're going to get a set of those to try out. And I have to tell you, the interactive pigment kit is worth it. It was the first thing I bought from Georgie's. That's how I met Maria at an NCECA conference. She was at the table. I saw her sculptural pieces. I was like in love with what she had done, and I couldn't get enough of the pigments and the cool lime matte glaze. I love that glaze. All right, take a little break. We'll be right back to do some giveaways.